The Chiappa M1-22, right now on Pirate Firearms and Reloading. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Chiappa M1-22. So this is a 22 clone of obviously an M1 carbine. So just to show you, obviously chamber is all clear, okay, and obviously no magazine in it. So really well put together rifle. I was remarkably impressed with it. I did see a few sort of not so favourable reviews online, so I wanted to sort of do one and correct it a little bit. I have never had an issue with this rifle cycling. The only issue I've had with is actually the magazine, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. So obviously beautiful wooden stock. They are available in synthetic. I don't know why you'd purchase a synthetic one, but hey, different strokes for different folks. So the sling and the oiler did not come with the rifle. They are additional. This is just a reproduction sling and oiler. Fit perfectly into the stock they provide you. The really cool thing about these two is they are actually all compatible with original M1 parts, so stocks and things like that, bayonet lugs, front sights, rear sights, they all work, which is quite nice. So if you wanted to change it around, make it a little bit more authentic, it's completely up to you. Okay, now I've done a couple of things to this rifle since I've had it, purely my own convenience. So if you look here, the selector switch between fire and safe originally was unmarked. So what I did is I took a little engraving bit, made an F, and then filled it with red paint, just so it's blatantly obvious that's in the safe position and that's in the fire position. That was the one thing I didn't like. For me, using this rifle myself, I didn't mind because I knew where it was. But if I handed this rifle to somebody else and say, have a few shots with this, they didn't know where fire or safe was, so a little bit less than ideal. The other thing that's a little bit of a departure, obviously you have a dovetail here up on the top of the receiver. So for some reason you decide you want to mount a scope to it, you actually can. Rear sight is polymer, the same with the trigger guard assembly. The actual trigger itself is metal, but the trigger guard and the magazine magazine release and everything, that is all polymer. And the same down here on the bayonet lug, the foresight and the front band, they are polymer. As we know with the firearms industries, it's quite common to replace parts with polymer, particularly on 22s. I don't see any issues with the quality in that aspect. If you really did want to, you could change them out for their metallic counterparts. And obviously just the standard steel butt plate on there, single screw. So obviously the oiler fits in there nicely. They are known to rattle a little bit. I did have to adjust the sight quite a way off to get it accurate, and the truth is I've actually had to file the front sight a little bit. I am shooting CCI subsonic hollow point. That tends to be the 22 ammo I use the most, mainly because I have a 10-22 for shooting rabbits and other small pests like that, and it works flawlessly, and it has worked flawlessly in this rifle too. I've probably had about 800, 900 rounds through it now. I haven't done a super accurate count, but I obviously, when I got it, I stripped it down, I cleaned it all out entirely, re-lubricated it, and I've gone that way ever since. I haven't actually cleaned the barrel again, and I haven't done a full strip down clean of the action either, so it's going really nicely. I have run a pull through the barrel a couple of times, and obviously I've just given a quick wipe over with a cotton patch and WD-40 throughout the action, just to get the worst of that 22 fouling out. Something else I have done, and it's a personal preference thing, the trigger out of the box was quite heavy. There was nothing so much wrong with the pull, there wasn't much creep or anything like that. The pull weight was just a little bit too heavy. So I played around with it and I polished up the internal parts, and I've got that down to about 3.5 pounds now, which is, you know, far more acceptable. You know, you've got to consider that too, these rifles originally were military rifles, so their trigger pulls were quite often that high. So yeah, so the three things really I have done is file the front sight, put a fire indicator on the selector switch, and polish the trigger. What I was going to mention to you is the magazines, obviously clear. So they slot in like a normal magazine, look pretty much close to the original piece. Obviously, once again, they're made of polymer. Now, what I found with these is they would fail to feed. So I'd be firing away, usually in a somewhat rapid fashion, and it would fail to push the next cartridge up to be fed into the chamber. What it would tend to do is go tip up in the magazine, and on further investigation I found the follower was actually being caught. So this magazine is molded in two parts, as you can quite clearly see the seam down the center here, and so the two halves are molded separately. Now I'll just pull this magazine apart for you. Now, I don't know if you're going to be able to see down inside the actual magazine, but there was molding marks close to this rib here, and it's what we call flash, and there was some about halfway down the magazine. And what I believe is happening, and now I've gently filed those out, it hasn't happened again, is this follower was jamming about halfway down, and I believe it was also skewing slightly when it was jamming, and that was allowing the tip to come up, and when the bolt ran forward it didn't contact the rim of the case like you'd expect it to, and it caused that malfunction. So I believe that was more the magazines. Coincidentally, I've got two of these magazines and only one was doing it, so that's usually a fairly good indication it's a magazine issue rather than an actual rifle issue. Just like a standard magazine, just goes back together like that. So I'll put that out of the way. So this thing is remarkably accurate. I was very surprised. I'm not the most accurate person with open sights, or, you know, a rear peep sight and a front blade. I'm definitely far better off with the rear peep or ghost ring rather than an actual traditional sort of buckhorn rear sight. Really, it's right up to the expectation. I mainly got this because in my local club we have a 22 open sights competition, where at 50 yards we shoot 5 shots from the prone, 5 shots sitting or kneeling, and then 5 shots standing. And I got plenty of 22s with scopes on them, but my original open sight 22, which ironically was a Chiappa too, was actually a Chiappa M1-22, and it was a 22 upper for a AR-15 centerfire lower. If you know what's happened in New Zealand over the last couple of years, all the centerfire semi-automatics have basically been banned, and that also includes centerfire lowers, so my rimfire upper had to go. Once again, with that, I really never had any problems with it. I think a lot of the complaints out there are due to, you know, lack of cleaning in the first place, or potentially over lubricating as well. Now, other things to note, obviously it does have that bolt lock back with the little push detent there, so obviously push it back, locks in place. It will last round hold open like that on the magazine. It catches on the follower, but it will not lock back. You actually still have to bring it back and lock it if you want it to stay in that position, and then release your magazine out of the bottom of it. So all in all, for the money, I'm over the moon with it. It shoots just as good as I can with open sights, and that's basically my benchmark standard as far as I'm concerned. So really quickly as well, I'm going to show you how it strips down. So there's nothing too mind-boggling about this. You've got the front band over here. Loosen that off. You have the retaining clip here, just like the original M1. Depress that, give it a wiggle forward. Top wood comes off, and then the action comes completely out of the stock. So as you can see, it is a really simple blowback 22 action. There's nothing particularly complicated. Obviously your guide rod and recoil spring are in there. You can see the hammer there in the cock position as I've got it locked open. So nothing particularly mind-boggling. Obviously you've got a front takedown pin, and that rear in there is actually dovetailed out to then slide that lower trigger group back and forward. So all in all, a real simple design. You know, just like the M1 Carbine was a real simple design. You know, wartime production. You know, you do things at a cost. Other thing to note, obviously, because this has the open top here at the breech, it's really important you wear safety glasses when you're shooting this. If you were to have a malfunction, you're definitely going to get stuff blow back towards you. Obviously, with things like a normal M1-22, you have that full rail on top, and any potential gases will eject out the side. So this is definitely I mean, you should be wearing shooting glasses anyway, but this one you cannot get away with it. And because it is a blowback too, you will get a little bit of gas and stuff back, and it isn't suppressed, it isn't threaded to be suppressed either, so you're not going to get a ton of gas back, but you're going to get enough to cause you problems. So that's just something to know. Obviously reassembly is much the same. It has a little hook assembly in here, so slot that action in, hook it down, so. Right, put the top wood back on. Just like that. Clips with the retaining clip in here, and then you can simply do the band back up again. Now, the other important thing to note, if you've ever fired any of these sort of grand designed firearms, that includes, you know, the M1 battle rifle, that includes M14s and the Ruger Mini 14s and Mini 30s. Obviously you do have a very large operation rod here, so if you do happen to stick your fingers in here during the shooting process, you are going to run into a little bit of trouble. I personally, when I'm gripping it, I like to have my hand out here, and I usually index on the little slot where the retaining clip is. Just encourages you to keep your fingers away from the operation. You'll only do it once. So that's it, folks. That's the Chiappa M1-22. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. I release new videos every Friday, so hit that notifications bell so you don't miss out on anything. See you in the next one.